Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 30 of Doodle Gems. This episode is going to be a little bit spooky, maybe a little bit creepy, but you don't have to worry about these critters coming and biting your little toes. Come with me and let's get started. All right, let's get started here. I want to show you really quick two of the spiders that I came up with just recently. That one and that one. You see both spiders side by side. I think this one is the Picasso Jasper, and this one is sort of a ruby or garnet. And I think what I'm going to do is Picasso Jasper for the back part of the body here. And then the red garnet is going to become the thorax, this part in the middle. And then this is his head. And then the legs. We need to make sure that we highlight the legs enough so that they stand up away from the web. So let's get started. Spiders are really interesting creatures, and I love drawing them. I hate seeing them in real life. So I do not have any problem with somebody taking the idea of these gems, these stones, and doing them in a different way. You don't have to make a spider, but this is one of my Halloween spooky drawings on black paper, because I've said that I would do some more black paper drawings, more black paper doodles. I have a couple more in mind. And right now I'm taking gingerroot, which is sort of it's not really cream, because cream is more white and yellowy. It's almost like the buff titanium. If this were an acrylic paint, this would be buff titanium. And it's a little bit warmer it's a lot warmer than white. And what I'm doing is just giving a nice light coating of the gingerroot on this Picasso Jasper. And they call it a Picasso Jasper because it is a jasper and it looks very much like an abstract. And Picasso was known for abstracts. And these Picasso Jaspers are very much black, white, gray, and sometimes a yellowy or brown tone to them. And this one, since I'm doing the spider, I'm choosing to do these colors in stripes that are kind of going with the shape of the body. Shape of this back end. And it's very interesting how those stripes would all get in there. It's basically grown in layers or formed in layers. They don't really grow. They were never living plant. Or they might have been living plant material eons and eons ago. So now I've been switching back and forth here, and I'm sorry, I just realized I was switching back and forth. I have been using the yellow ochre, the gingerroot, and the black. And it goes together really fast. I am just sort of using the pencils themselves to blend into each other. They're not, there's no real set pattern that I have drawn down here, except that I'm making a spider, so I'm trying to keep this part sort of a similar shape to itself, similar shape to a spider. And I know some people have problems with spiders in general. They don't even like pictures of them. So I'm hoping that if you're drawing your own, you know that it's not real. It's all from your imagination. You can draw it as whatever way you want. Now I'm going to take that colorless blender, and what I did here before I do that is I took the gingerroot again and used it making some abstract-y type lines going across. And now I don't want the speckle of the paper coming through the body so much. A little bit is fine because really spider bodies are covered with little hairs. Part of their sense organ is being able to feel what's going on with their webs. They have very sensitive feet, very sensitive bodies. They can feel air movement. They can feel vibration from the tiniest little touch on their web through their whole bodies. And that's why they know where they're going on, or how they know where they're going on their web. And if you see here, this, let me zoom in for you. So you see how this has a little bit of smearing going on between the lines. That's what I wanted. I wanted that sort of smear to happen. That's what you get when you layer your colors and then you take a colorless blender over it. When you have colors that are so vastly different, you can really see the smoothing of the colors and this sort of smeariness that can happen. And I wanted that. I knew it was going to happen, and I courted that. And now I want a little bit of white because I'm going to be putting a highlight here with the white pen. But I want sort of a diffused white out around the edge of it. So I'm going to give it a bit of that, which will be that brightest highlight. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the white away from that bright highlight and make a little bit more of a diffused, highlight out there. There will be colorless blender next, and then after I get the legs on, we'll finish this gem with a little bit of the white Signo pen. But for now, that stone is pretty much, let's see, I think I want a little bit more of the gingerroot down in here. It was looking like there was a hole. And I wanted to make sure that that doesn't end up being a distraction. I don't want it to look like the spider has a hole in its body. So there we go. A little bit more black right over here. Right there. I'm just sort of breaking up these lines just a little bit. Remember, abstract. And no two Picasso Jaspers are the same. And Jasper can be found all over the world. It's a type of chalcedony, has a lot of quartz. And it's a fairly hard stone. It's about a 7 on the Mohs scale, M-O-H-S, scale of hardness. Zoom out here just a little bit, and we're going to get the next section of his body on. And because it's going to be a red gem, I'm going to use my Scarlet Lake to outline that. And start coloring it in a little bit. Then I'm going to take some of that white over a little bit of the red. Wow, that's looking real shiny there, isn't it? Really shiny already. I want to knock that back just a smidge, because I want that to sort of sink back in. I put that white on top of my red, and now it's getting more red on top of the white. And the reason for doing that is just so that it pushes it back and it looks more round, more deep, more jewel tones, more jewel-like. Yeah, that's actually looking pretty darn good. I'm excited about that. We'll go ahead and zoom back in so you can see it a little bit better. Look at that. And then there's a smaller circle up here at the top or the bottom of the page because I have it facing me. And I know this is black pencil being put onto black paper. Sort of like when I do white pencil on white paper. But it will reveal itself here. This is its little head. Get its little head on here. I'm using the gingerroot to highlight this little head. It actually makes it look almost like that onyx, doesn't it? Take a little bit of the brighter white. So see, this project is sort of a combination of several different ones that we've done. And then I'm going to take that white and highlight around the outside edges of the red. And take the colorless blender and just kiss those edges. And just a little bit there. There we go. So now we're going to go ahead and put in the web, and then we'll put the legs in over the top of it. But I want a little bit more white on those outside edges of the body, just so we can really make sure we know where it is. Just want to make sure we know where it is. We don't want him getting lost on his web, or her web. We don't want her getting lost. But I do want the web to show up also. So what we're going to do is I'm pretending that the direct center of the paper, which is right on this seam right here. I need to zoom that out even farther. All right, so the direct center of this paper is right about this seam here, where the body and I think it's the thorax. I said that earlier, but I did not check. Right here. So that's the center of the web. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just draw into a half one direction, half the other direction. And then each of these quarters is going to get broken up. And I'm thinking and remembering that I'm doing diagonal lines from this point here and working them out. From this point here and then coming out. And then, let's see. And then I'm going to do the same thing from there. Oh, see, that one started a little bit off. I just have to adjust the angle that I'm taking it. There we go. And then from that point, we're going across and across. So again, I'm doing black pencil on black paper, which I know is not as helpful. But by putting it in black first, we are giving it our deepest tone. We're giving it the shadow. And now I'm going to make these pretty little scallopy lines. And it's just going to be a very shallow C shape or a U shape or an N shape. Whatever shape you want to call it. I'm just doing these little shallow shapes that connect between each line. And we're just making sure it connects. Make sure it connects between each line, because remember, a spider's web is a series of connected lines. That's spider silk. One of the most strong materials made in nature. Because if you think about it, spiders spin this material from their bodies. The spider is not a really big creature. I mean, yeah, some spiders are big, but the spider is not a really big creature. Weighs, really very little. Spins this web of filaments that can then catch critters, in some instances, that are way bigger than the spider. Let's see here. And that spider web can hold it. All right, so we've got that. Now I'm going to go in and do my purple. The purple is going to go along the lines. We'll do that first. Just along on one side of each line. So I've chosen that it's going to be going basically around the clock. So it's on the right-hand side of each line of this web for the radius, those radiant lines that are radiating out from the center where this spider has spun its web. I think spider webs are one of the most beautiful things. Even if I don't like spiders, I still like spider webs. When they are outside and it's early morning and the sunlight's coming out and there's dewdrops all over the spider webs, hanging like pearls and glinting in the sunlight. And now I am going to highlight those scallops. And highlighting the scallops, I am not going to do just a hard, solid line on every single one of these. I'm going to let the line break. So I'll kind of start, and then I'll stop, and then I'll pick up again. I'll start, go across, and pick up again. I'm only going to do it on one side of this line. And again, I'm doing it on the side that's going out and away. Maybe I won't do it all the way. Well, no, I will. Maybe I won't. Oh, yes, I will. And I'm pressing with my pencil. I'm wearing my tip down here pretty fast, but I'm pressing with the pencil and then lifting up. And you can see how it's turning into this sort of tapered off stroke as I'm drawing. I'm pushing down and picking up, but as I'm picking up, I'm still just gently dragging that pencil across the paper. And that's something that you can practice. You don't have to do this as a tapered stroke. You could just draw, stop, pick up, and move over a little bit and draw. That works too. I find that my little tapered stroke, it looks fatter when I start. It goes thinner. And then I'm sort of doing light and then pressing hard as I'm coming to the end on the outside edge, because I'm doing it thicker where it's attached and thinner in the middle. At least that's my intention. May not be the execution, but I'm trying to do that. And if you notice, my lines are not always perfect, and I don't always follow the line that I drew. Sometimes they cross over funny. Sometimes they're flat and sometimes they're wide. But look at that. Look how that purple allows the rest of this spider to step up away from the black paper. And at the very end, we will go back in with a little bit of white and do some highlighting in the web. But first, I'm going to take the black and start drawing the legs on. And with a spider, it's easiest to draw 2 legs on each side going forward and 2 legs on each side going backwards. So that's what I'm going to do. And I tend to draw these legs with we'll say this is the part that, okay, there's a spider. Very rough. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll come back and I'll thicken up those legs on the parts that are attached to the body more, and in the middle. As they go farther away from the body, they get thinner, almost like trees. Almost like trees. But see, it's basically just like a piece of rice or a piece of grain for the 2 parts of the leg. Then back here, I'm going to start at the one that's closest to the back, the very back end, and these are going to sort of skim along the body. So sort of skimming along the body. And if you notice, my legs do not always match. They're not always the same length. They're not always the same angle. And I didn't mean to do that, but that's okay. I'm just showing you the basic shape of a spider. So now we've done the basic shape of a spider, because it's a little hard for you to see it as I'm drawing it in the black. All right, so let's get started here. We're going to go leggy bit, leggy bit, and leg, leggy bit, leggy bit, and leg, 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 and let's see. Yeah, we'll just bring it forward. Leg, leg. And then this one's, these are longer, going to the back. And when I start doing the highlighting, you're going to see these legs just sort of pop out of nowhere. You'll see them just sort of pop out of nowhere because of doing it in the black. Leggy bit, a leggy bit, and there. All right, so we've got this spider. Oh, I do need, with my black, to do these two little hooky bits. It's like the mouthpieces. And again, you can't really see it until I start putting some highlighting in there. I'm going to start off with the gingerroot to highlight. So I'm starting with the gingerroot to start putting in some highlights on these legs. Just a little bit of highlighting. That's going to make it so you can see it better. Look at that. The legs just start showing up. Just start showing up. And we're going to put little feet. Little feet. There we go. Those cream colored legs. So now we're going to go on to the front arms. Front arms or legs. Okay, let me tell you, I'm having so much fun doing this. I am enjoying the opportunity to come up with different ideas, different things that you might be interested in doing also. If you have any suggestions for me of things that you would like to do, what would you like to do for the winter season? Do you want me to keep doing gems? I was thinking maybe doing something, making ornaments or something like that, maybe even with the gems. But what else would you like to see? What else would you like to see? I'm going to go ahead and grab that white and start putting a little bit higher highlights on these legs, sort of blend them in together a little bit so you can see them a little bit. And I'll take a colorless blender on them also, just to smooth out some of those colors so that they look more finished. But his body and his legs all seem to go together to me. They all seem like they do belong to the same critter. Now I don't want to work these colors back so far that you start seeing the web through the body parts. And that's one of the problems of doing the web before you've done the body. or the legs, but it's more of a problem to draw the web in around the spider legs. It's easier to put the spider legs in over the web. Wow, we're getting almost done. So I am going to do a little bit of highlighting in the web. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You don't have to highlight every spot. And I think with my white pen, there might be a couple spots of dew hanging around. Might be a couple spots of dew. Don't know. We'll see, because we're getting to that point right now. Oh, no, actually what we're going to do first here is I want to smooth out some of that white highlight. I don't want it to be quite so stark. There we go. Yeah. Let's just blend that in just a bit. I don't want those to be quite so stark. And that foot, those feet, I don't need them to be so stark either. Not so stark. I don't want them to become distractions. Blend those down just a little bit. Just blending, blending, blending. As much as you want, or none at all. It's up to you. Now, that spot looks a little bit messy, so I'm thinking that that area right there that's looking a wee bit messy, it's actually going to end up with some water drops. Glistening water drops. Just a few little beads of water hanging out. Just a few. Just working their way around. Hanging on there like little strings of pearls. A breeze may have come by and blown off some of them. There we go. You don't need to end up with it looking like the whole thing is beaded. Just a few here and there. You like how that turns out? Just a few little drops of water. And really, all it is you're making polka dots. Making polka dots. Make them bigger and smaller. Don't have them all end up being the same size. You don't have to have them ending up being the same size. All right. We're putting the highlight spot on the ruby and the highlight spot on the jasper. I'm going to just ever so slightly get a little bit of a shine going on back here. Maybe just a touch inside. The jasper is not one that light goes through, but that's right. But the ruby or garnet, the light does go through. So actually, what I want is for that one to have the spot back here. And then grab my white and just lighten up an area right here. And ever so slightly behind it, behind that dark. There we go. We've got dark in there from underneath from the black paper. We've got highlights from the white. We've got a highlight from the white pen. And if your pen gets globby, just roll it off. Just roll it off. And once it's flowing, I'm just barely touching. And when I just barely touch, it's actually letting loose ink. See how I'm just barely touching. So then, once I get it started, I'm not even really touching the paper. I'm just touching the pool of ink, and it's pulling more ink out. It's really quite nice that way. Then a tiny little bit, oops, that's probably a little bit more than I wanted. A little bit more than I wanted. Tiny little bit on this bit that's kind of like a little bit of onyx. And maybe a dot right there. So it looks like boom, boom, boom. Light going through. And then I forgot to highlight his little mouth parts here. A little bit. And we have made it through this spooky spider. Pull that piece of paper out from under it. And let me flip that over so it's not quite so distracting. Spooky spider. There you go. If you enjoyed doing this project with me, I would really appreciate it if you would click the like button, subscribe if you aren't already so that you'll find out when new videos come up. Share this video with your friends. I had a lot of fun with this. I hope you did. Do you want to see one more spooky or two more spookies before the end of October? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, go out and do something creative. Take care. Bye-bye.